Good morning and welcome to today's lesson, which is mean from a grouped frequency table. With moving from a group frequency table, it's probably worth thinking about what a frequency table is first of all, and how you create a frequency table, because I think that really helps with the understanding of why we do the things that we do on this. I'm just going to do a quick random list of data. So let's go with 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. Let's just think about these numbers for a second. So a frequency table, I might add a couple more in there. I might add a few 2s and add a 3 in there, and then add a 5. Now with a frequency table, what we're looking at is a clearer way of representing all of these. So you might kind of put your table down here and you write numbers over here. And you'd write the numbers that you've got in here, maybe from 1 until 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Massive table, which I'm going up to 10 now, but you know. And then you have frequency. So how many 1s have I got? Well, I've got 0 1s. Sorry, I've got 1 1. How many 2s have I got? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3 2s, so that will go there. How many 3s have I got? Well, I've got 1, 2 3s. How many 4s I've got? 1 4. How many 5s I've got? 2 5s. How many 6s I've got? 1 6. I've got no 7s, no 8s, no 9s, and then 1 10. Now, we know that if we are trying to find the mean of just a list of numbers, what we do is we add all of these together and divide by the amount that we are. So it'd be 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So all of these numbers added together divided by 11. Now that's quite straightforward for a list of numbers. But if I was to cover this up and just look at the frequency table, how would I find the mean of that? Well, the thing is, you've got 1 1, so I'd add that on. I've got 2 lots of 2, so I'm just going to put here, this is what we call the FX column. I've got 1 lot of 1, so there's 1. How many 2s have I got? Well, if I was to add these together, it'd be 2 plus 2, which is 4. But actually, is there a quicker way of doing this? Sorry, I've got 3 lots of 2. So there's 2 plus 2 plus 2, I'll be adding next, which is 6. But is there a quicker way of doing that? Well, that's going to be 2 times by 3, which is equal to 6. So it's going to be 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, plus that 6, plus 3 plus 3. Is there a quicker way of doing that? Yes, 3 times 2, which again is equal to 6, plus 4, well there's only one of those, plus 5, there's 2 lots of 5, so it's going to be equal to 10, plus 1 lot of 6, plus 0 lots, and I think we can start to see why this FX column at the end comes in handy, because actually what we're doing here, instead of going 2 plus 2 plus 2 3 times, we're doing 2 times 3. Instead of doing 3 plus 3, I'm doing 3 times 2. Instead of doing 4, just adding a single 4, I'm doing 4 times 1. This is called an FX column, and we use this. We are using this to find our. We'll use the FX column to find our grouped frequency. So let's have a look at a little question now. Let's move on. So this question here says, the amount of goals scored in a football match is collected and represented in a table. Find the mean amount of goals scored. Okay, so we've got our table here, very similar to the table we just had. Very similar to the table we've just had. However, this one is a lot smaller, a lot more manageable than the one I was just dealing with. So you will have this on your sheet to fill in, but I'm going to draw this out. So we have X, and this will be the amount of goals, which is 0, 1, 2, and 3 in this case, we have our frequency, which in this case is 10, 13, 14, and 10. And then we need our extra column on here, which is called the FX column. And we use this FX column to find out the total amount of goals scored in over a several amount of games. So for this one here, we've got 0 times by 10. So what this actually means is that in 10 games, they didn't score any goals. Well, if they didn't score any goals with that, it's going to be 10 times by 0, which is your FX column, which is 0. What does this mean? This means in 13 games, they scored 1 goal. So that's going to be 1 times by 13, which is 13. In this one here, in 14 games, they scored 2 goals. So that's going to be 14 times by 2, which is 28. And in 10 games, they must be quite a good team, they scored 3 goals. So in total amount of goals there is equal to 30. Now this FX column represents the total amount of goals scored across all games. Now, it's worth saying at this point that if you are at home, it's worth writing these examples down in your book. This is example 1. If you need to pause to make sure you've got this in your book, make sure you get it in your book, make sure you're doing it properly. Make sure that you're actually thinking about what you're doing and not just watching the video, because if you just watch the video, it's not going to sink in. You have to be practicing it. Okay? So, if you want to find the mean from a frequency table or a group frequency table, the formula for this, there is a formula, is mean is equal to the total FX column divided by your total frequency. It's worth writing that down and highlighting that in your book. Again, if you need to pause to do that now. So the mean is equal to your total FX divided by your total frequency. So in this case here, let's find out what my total FX is. So 0 plus 13 plus 28 plus 30, which is equal to, we can put our totals down here, probably should have left a little bit more room. Total, well, the total of our FX is equal to 71. And our total frequency, which is 10 plus 13 plus 14 plus 10, is equal to 47, which means they've played 47 games, so quite a lot of games they've played there. So this here will represent the total amount of goals scored. This here represents the amount of games played. So our mean is equal to your total FX, which is 71, divided by your total frequency, which in this case is 47. So 71 divided by 47, which is equal to 1.51. So this here is the mean amount of goals scored. Now it's worth noting at this stage, some people say, well, that's 1.5 goals. How can you score 1.5 goals? But because this is over 47 games, this is the average amount of goals per game. Okay, so this is the average amount of goals per game. So just go back a little bit here. You'll be given just this frequency table, and to find the mean from a group frequency, you need to create this FX column, and you do that by timesing these. So 0 times by 10, 1 times by 13, 2 times by 14, and 3 times by 10. You then add all these up and find the sum of FX divided by the sum of the frequency, which in this case is equal to 47, and then it's going to be 71 divided by 47, which is 1.5, which is the mean amount of goals. So this is from just from a frequency table. This isn't a group frequency table. So the next one I'm going to be looking at is a grouped frequency table. So with this question here, it says the weight of kangaroos is collected and presented in a table. Find the mean weight of the kangaroos. So you'll notice with this one here that, let's have a little look. You'll notice that with this one here that you've got a range of this. So this range goes from 60 to 70, the range goes from 70 to 80, the range goes from 80 to 90, and 90 to 100. Now, because we've got the range, we've got to think about what value we're actually going to use, because previously when we did the last one, it was just the amount of goals scored that we used, so 0 times by 10, 1 times by 13. But here we've got a range. Now because we've got a range and we don't know the actual weight of the kangaroo in that range, what we do is we use the midpoint. Okay, so I'll draw my table again. Again, remember, you should be getting this in your book. This one here is example 2. So I'll draw my table out. I've got the frequency here. I've got the weight over here. And that's in kilograms, is it? And my range is 60 is less than X is less than 70. It's worth mentioning at this point, this means that the weight of a kangaroo is between 60 and 70, not including 60 but including 70. We also have 70 to 80, 80 to 90, and 90 to 100. We've got our frequencies, 16, 5, 17, and 19. Now, going back to what I said before, we don't know the exact weight of the kangaroo in this category, so we can't pick 60, we can't pick 70, because that's the lowest and the highest. So what we do is we use the midpoint. So what is the middle of 60 and 70? Well, some people might just be able to see that. And I think the majority of people would just be able to see the fact that this is what's in between 60 and 70. What's in between 60 and 70 is 65. However, there is a way of working that out if you're not sure. If it's a strange one and you're not sure, the best way to do that is to do 60 plus 70, so the lowest plus the highest divided by 2, which would be equal to 65. And you can do that for all of them. I don't think you need to do that for all of them in this one, because I think we should be able to see it goes 70 to 80, which is 75, 80 to 90, which is 85, and 90 to 100, which is 95. So we've got our midpoint now, we've got our frequency, but we've still got to think about the fact that we need this FX column. This is the key one. Okay, this is going to be the average amount of weights for all of these kangaroos. So what this means is we've got 16 kangaroos with an average weight of 65. So to find the weight of all those 16 kangaroos, I times this. Okay, this is going to give you your FX column. Again, it's just frequency times midpoint, frequency times midpoint, frequency times midpoint. So it's 16 times by 65, which is equal to 1040. We've got 5 times by 75, which in this case is equal to 375. We've got 17 times by 85, which is equal to 1445. And we've got 19 times by 95, which in this case is equal to 1805. So here we've got, I'll just make it really clear, 5 kangaroos with an average weight of 75. So their total average weight is equal to 375. We've got 17 kangaroos with an average weight of 85 kilograms, times those together. And going back to that formula we had before, where it was the mean is equal to your total FX divided by your total frequency. And your total fx in this case, I'm going to work that out. So it's going to be all of these added together. So it's going to be 1040 plus 375 plus 1445 plus 1805. So all of these added together, which is equal to 4665. And divided by your total frequency, which is this column here. So it's going to be 16 plus 5 plus 17 plus 19. So in this case is 57. So this is your total frequency. This is the amount of kangaroos that they've weighed. This is the total weight of all of them, or the average total weight of all of them. Notice that I use the word average or estimated total weight, and the reason it's an estimated total weight is because we don't actually know what these values are. So we're not using the actual data, we're using the range of them. So here we have mean, which is equal to your total fx, which is 4665 in this case, divided by your total frequency, which is 57. So let's do that now. 4665 divided by 57, which is equal to 81.8 kilograms. And that there is the average weight of a kangaroo. Okay? Make sure you get this written down in your book. It's all very well and good watching this video, but unless you're writing this down, you're going to struggle to remember it. Okay, we're going to move on to another question. I'm just going to do a GCSE style question. So just in case you want to see this one a little bit clearer, I'll read through it first. So Bob asked each of his 40 friends how many minutes they took to get to work. The table shows some information about his results. Work out an estimate for the mean time taken and state the modal class interval. Well, this is just basically very similar to the ones that we've done already. It's no different really. What we do need to notice with this one is there is an extra little part here which asks for the modal class. Okay, what is the modal class of this? So, if we are looking at this one here, I'm going to draw it out just so you can see. So here we have time taken, and that's in minutes. We also then have your frequency. Notice I've already put this extra column in there. So time taken in minutes, we've got the frequency. Let's get these in here now. So that's between 0 is less than m is less than or equal to 10. 10 is less than m is less than or equal to 20. 20 is less than m is less than or equal to 30. 30 is less than m is less than or equal to 40. And 40 is less than m is less than or equal to 50. Frequency in this one, 3, 8, 11, 9, and 9. So we already know here what we need. We need the midpoint, which is there. And the midpoint of these, the midpoint between 0 and 10 is 5. The midpoint between 10 and 20 is 15. Remember, if you're not sure what they are, you can add 20 plus 30, which is 50 divided by 2, which is 25. 30 to 40 is 35. 40 to 50 is equal to 45. We also need the fx column. So the fx column is equal to your frequency times by your midpoint. So in this case, 3 times by 5. Which is equal to 15. 8 times by 15, which is equal to 120. 11 times by 25, which is equal to 275. 9 times by 35, which is equal to 315, and 9 times by 45, which is equal to 405. So we've got our midpoints, we've got our fx, we've got our frequency now, so we know that the formula is equal to mean is equal to your total fx divided by your total frequency. And your total fx, and I haven't worked that out just yet, is 15 plus 120 plus 275 plus 315 plus 405, which is 1,130. Total frequency. Now, in this question, it does actually say that there's 40 friends. So we know that this is already equal to 40, but I will check that just to make sure. 3 plus 8 plus 11 plus 9 plus 9, which is equal to 40, which makes sense. And then it's your total fx, which is this one here, 1,130, divided by its total frequency, which is 40. So 1,130 divided by 40, which is equal to 28.25 minutes. Does that make sense with my data? Well, yes, that's in this range here. We see that the peak is here, so yes, that does make sense with it. So we've done that first part, that's 4 marks. Brilliant. So the next part says, state the modal class interval. Now, if you remember when you do averages, you might know the song. Hey diddle diddle, the median's in the middle. You add and divide for the mean. The mode is the one which is the most, and the range is the difference between. You might have done that in class. So the one we need to think about is, hey diddle diddle, the median's in the middle. You add and divide for the mean. The mode is the one which is the most. So the modal class is the most common of these. Okay? So that was part A. Part B, which one is the modal class? Well, the most common one in this one is this one here. Now, notice that it says the modal class, and that's because it's looking for the range of this. So 20 is less than m, is less than or equal to 30. So this here is the most common class, the most common range. And that there will probably be 1 mark. And that's that GCSE question done. So, let's have a look at a trickier one here. So we'll just do 1 more of these, I think. Now, if I'm honest, I haven't seen something like this come up in a foundation paper. So if you are doing foundation, it might be worth pausing at this point, or if you want to push yourself that little bit further, stretch and challenge yourself, you definitely should. There's definitely no reason why you shouldn't be trying to learn this, because it could come up. I'm just saying I haven't seen it before. So this is a little bit different. We're working backwards now. So notice here that it's given us the mean. It's given us the mean already. And it's given us these, but there's a frequency missing. So we've got the mean now, but it's asking us to work backwards to find the frequency. And when we're doing this, what we need to do is exactly the same technique. We're doing everything the same way, but we're going to be forming an equation, or forming some kind of equation, and then working backwards with that and solving that equation, which is quite a little bit harder. So here, I'll draw it out again. We've got our weight in kilograms. Remember, if you're doing this one here is example, it should be example 4. I think I forgot to write example 3 on the last one. This one here is example 4. So the weights now are 60 is less than x is less than or equal to 70. 70 is less than x is less than or equal to 80. 80 is less than x is less than or equal to 90. And 90 is less than x is less than or equal to 100. We've got our frequencies, which are 18, 14, A, the one I don't know, and 15. But I already know that the mean of this is equal to 78. So, exactly the same technique. The first thing I need to do, because these are all ranges, okay, I need to make sure that I am finding the midpoint first. So the midpoint of this one, we've already actually done some of these midpoints. Between 60 and 70 is 65, 70 and 80 is equal to 75, 80 and 90 is 85, and 90 and 100 is 95. We then need to work out our fx column. And we know our fx is equal to the frequency times by the midpoint. So in this case, these are a little bit bigger. 18 times by 65, which is equal to 1,170. 14 times by 75, which is equal to 1,050. This is the one that we don't know. So it's a times by 85, which is 85a algebraically. And then 15 times by 95, which is equal to 1,425. Now, with anything like this, where we're trying to work backwards, you write down the formula, fill in everything that you know, and then work backwards from there. Okay? So my formula for this case is mean is equal to your total fx divided by your total frequency. So with this one here, let's work out what my total fx is. So you've got to be careful with this because this is in terms of a. So I can add these three here together, but I can't add this one to it. So it's going to be, because these are, this is 85a and this is just a number. So we've got 1,170 plus 1,050 plus 1,425, which is equal to 3,645 plus the 85a. Okay, that is the total there for this part. We also need the total frequency. Now, it doesn't tell us our total frequency. That's what we need to work out a to find that. So it's going to be 18 plus 14 plus a plus 15. I can't add a to any of those. So it's just going to be 18 plus 14 plus 15, which is equal to 47 plus the a. So this is my total fx in terms of a. This is my total frequency in terms of a. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to substitute all of these values in, and I'm going to work backwards. So my mean is equal to 78. My total fx in this case is this one here in terms of a, 3,645 plus the 85a divided by your total frequency, which in this case is 47 plus a. And we've created an equation there. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is get rid of this denominator. And we're going to do that by timesing all of this side by this. So I end up with 78 times by 47 plus a is equal to 3,645 plus 85a. I'm going to expand this bracket out. Notice I've got a's on both sides, so I'm going to have to take away one of those at some point. So 78 times by 47. 78 times by 47 is equal to 3,666. 78 times by a is just going to be the 78a, which is equal to 3,645 plus 85a. Now, how do I solve an equation with unknowns on both sides? Well, to do this, I need to get rid of the smallest value of a, including negatives. In this case, that's equal to the 78. So minus 78a minus 78a. So that's going to cancel that one off. I end up with 3,666 is equal to 3,645 85 minus the 78 is equal to plus 7a. I'm going to subtract both of those. So I end up with 3,666. I'm subtracting, so to get a on its own, I need to get rid of this part here now. So minus 3,645 minus 3,645. If I minus those, it will get rid of that. So 3,666 minus 3,645, which is equal to 21. Okay, so I end up with 21 is equal to 7a. So the last little part is to divide by 7 and divide by 7. So 21 divided by 7 is equal to 3. 7a divided by 7 is equal to a. So the answer, a, is equal to 3. Just making sure I check the question. The question is asking for a, not to find the total frequency, although we could find that out now because I know that this is equal to 3. Well, that's that question done. Okay, that was quite a tricky one. Remember, to get this into your book, or make sure you're writing down a version of this, writing it down in your book, thinking about it, processing it, is what's going to put it into your long-term memory, so make sure you are doing that. So make sure you write it down. You can pause if you want. So, next up, what we're going to be doing is I've got some questions here for you to have a go at. I am going to be setting some on Dr. Frost as well, so make sure you have a look at those and make sure you understand them. So, here's some questions for you to have a go at. Remember that I am not going to wait 5 minutes for you to do all of these, so pause this now, have a go at some yourself, make sure you understand them. So these are the questions. Make sure you pause at this stage if you're going to have a go at some yourself. And I'm going to put the answers up now. So you should unpause by this point. And there's those answers. So thank you very much for following me with this video. Make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing your Dr. Frost as well. And have a nice day. I'll see you soon.